Hello and welcome back. In this video session, I'm going to be talking about bullwhip effect. We'll look at what this phenomenon is all about, first of all, right? What do we see? What happens when we have bullwhip effect? Why is it so bad, right? And then we'll talk about what are the reasons and factors that caused it so that perhaps we can uh, work on the root cause itself. And finally, we will look at ways, actions, reactions that the stakeholders in the supply chain, such as the suppliers and the customer companies themselves, can do to reduce the effect or the impact, or better still, to eliminate it, right? To prevent it from being started even in the first place. So let's dive in. This bullwhip effect is this phenomenon as is illustrated by the three time series curves on the order quantity, that is the demand from our customers, from its own respective customers, uh, as you go upstream. So this is the downstream side, right? And this is the upstream side, meaning the manufacturer. So as you go from the retail, the customers, right, who come into the supermarket, for example, to look for their goods and products. For example, diapers. And they are buying for their own household needs, and the quantity might have certain fluctuations, and that is pretty reasonable. And uh, you you will see some fluctuations because there are times when you need one or two more packs of diapers. There are times where you don't because you have existing inventory in your house. There are times where there's an increase because there might be months that slightly more babies are born, right? And there are months accordingly when slightly lesser than average babies are born. So that's kind of okay when you have fluctuations. Fluctuations will be inevitable. But when you go upstream to the distributors, the wholesalers and the distributors, if you look at their time series on demands, you find that at the same time, right, roughly in the same month or around the same week, a small fluctuations, right, observed in the retail stores will be magnified. And that's a little bit strange. Magnified not in the sense of adding up the demands from a few stores, but rather more than the sum of the demands from several stores. So it's as if there is a 50% increase in the number of babies that needed that kind of diapers. And when you go further upstream at the manufacturer's end, of course, I'm shortening the whole supply chain down to just three players, when in fact it could be more 10, 15, 20. And the manufacturer at roughly the same month or week will observe a very much amplified demand. And that's not because of the sum of the distributors and wholesalers, because this average level, this average high level here is the average sum of demands from all the source. So it's high because of the multiple outlets, yeah. But then if you have fluctuations, you should be having plus minus, let's say 10%, 15%. But this is like plus minus 150%, 200%, for example, just to illustrate that the impact is so huge, that the fluctuation magnitude is so huge that you just cannot imagine that in that same month, it's like if P&G supplies uh, the diapers exclusively, or if Unilever, or if who else sell diapers, uh, sell exclusively in that country, then it's as if the number of baby born in that month doubled all of a sudden. Okay, then that is not natural. That's definitely not natural. Something is going on. Can you understand the logic here? Yeah, because who uses diapers? Babies. It will have to be babies, right? I mean, you can expect humans to use the baby-sized diapers. So this was actually the famous case study by Hao Li, this researcher at Stanford, who wrote a case about P&G, Procter and Gamble, their puzzle, right? Their confusion with observing this kind of time series demand. And they wonder what is happening, right? Because if you think about the logic, why is it that there is a sudden doubling of the number of babies born in certain month, right? That doesn't make sense. And only to have the following month having as if there is no baby being born. Because if you use the consumption of diaper as a proxy to estimate the babies that need those diapers, then you find that, for the subsequent month or months, there seems to be far fewer babies that are being born. Right? Very, very strange. So no matter how you do it, you cannot come up with a reasonable, logical explanation for this. And so uh, that basically is what Bullwhip effect is all about. This observation that, as Forrester noted in the 60s, he noted that as you go up the supply chain, the fluctuation in demand increases, right? And it increases not by imperceivable amount like 1%, 2%. It increases by observable and unreasonable amount. So much so that Forrester actually designed a game called EBIA that is also very famous in business schools and executive studies, MBAs, and all that, to understand, right, and appreciate without having to work for 5 years, 10 years in the supply chain of a fast-moving consumer good, to appreciate the presence, the ever so presence of movie effect. And by playing the EBIA game, Forrester Forrester designed, one can kind of appreciate that when you make local decisions. So, for example, if you're the retailer, you try to do uh, whatever action you need to do, all right, adjusting the demand quantity, storing the inventory, buying more in advance for economies of scale. Remember principle of consolidation, right? Whatever you do it to maximize your local objective function, like profit. I want to increase my profit, or like readiness. I want to increase my customer satisfaction so that whenever there's a spike in quantity for diapers, I will have. Maybe this particular retailer wants to compete in that sense. So whatever you do, you optimize it, you make decisions, and then eventually, when everyone did that, somehow or other, this variation will become magnified and very much magnified uh, on the manufacturer's end, right? So by playing this e-beer, Forrester kind of impresses upon the business students that this effect is uh, very much present. No matter how you try to avoid, it is very much present. When you make local, this word called selfish decisions. I think it's not about selfishness, but about running your business and making decisions to optimize locally, only to contribute to the macro effect of having a bullwhip on the manufacturer, right? So who experiences bullwhip, the impact of bullwhip? Yes, the manufacturer, all the way up the supply chain. And it's bullwhip because when you know those Spanish bull riding, right? They have a whip to whip the bull, right? So the bullwhip's handle is here, and when you whip, the handle has the least swing, right? And then at the end, this part that hits the cow skin is or the bull skin is going to be having the biggest swing, right? in magnitude, and that's why this name was given to describe this effect. Yeah, and manufacturer experiences it, right? So obviously, if you are the manufacturer, if any of you, ends up working at a manufacturer firm like P&G, like Unilever, like Kao shampoo in Japan, Kao manufactures various products as well, and Lion, I think there's another brand called Lion. Uh, all these FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods manufacturers, they will tend to experience bullwhip effect if the supply chain is not managed properly. Okay, uh, because further down we're going to talk about how to reduce the effect or an impact. And fast-moving consumer goods, why? Because that's when many customers, they will buy for their own use, and so it's very, for example, very much population dependent, person dependent. It doesn't the demand for that kind of goods, fast moving consumer goods, the demand doesn't increase all of a sudden because of an organic doubling or a sudden increase in organic demand, right? Because, for example, if we eat potatoes, um, and suppose potatoes are themselves only grown, processed, and sold as food, like potato chips and cooked food. And if that's the case, then who eats potatoes? Humans, right? I mean, if we don't use that as feed for cows, for pigs, and all that, then only humans. Then in that case, observing a doubling in demand for potatoes would be very strange, don't you think? It becomes very natural, right? But then if you do observe it, then you must be asking, no, no, no. I checked with the census statistics. There's no doubling of the population, right? And it's not quite possible. So the only conclusion is something must be happening, right? Oh, I see. The distributor kind of also sold it to farmers as feeds, for example. Maybe, right? So that's why they double the volume. They triple the volume, only for most of it to be resold to the animal farmers. Maybe I'm just saying, right? So something is happening that the manufacturer is not able to understand, or is making the wrong assumption about how their FMCG goods are being used. So FMCG goods, diaper is one of them, as I mentioned. Um, for P&G, their brand is called Pampers, right? And it's very successful, and so successful that sometimes we just say, let's go and buy the Pampers, but actually what we mean is buy the diapers. Any brand will do, but Pampers. So fast moving consumer goods. What else? Shampoos, yes. Soap, yes. Hand wash, yes. Yeah, because you don't use hand wash to wash dishes. uh, Too expensive, right? Hand wash is a high quality um, uh, kind of detergent that is safe for the skin, doesn't cause sensitivity reaction and all that. And so fast moving consumer goods, right? So all these are good examples of FMCG, and manufacturers for these FMCG products tend to experience bullwhip effect if their supply chain is not well run, is not well trained to reduce or remove the potential of bullwhip effect happening. So when it happens, then of course the manufacturer gets whipped, and there is a lot of losses. So just very quickly look at the part that affects the manufacturer. So let me just erase these writings. So on this part, when I say the demand for P&G's Pampers like doubled or tripled for, let's say, the month of June. Okay, just imagine. So Pampers normally had to produce, let's say, for example, 1 million packs every month on average. Sometimes a bit more, sometimes a bit less. Fine. But for the month of June, Pampers has to produce 2 million packs. Now, just imagine, how does P&G complete that order, fulfill that order? how will you fulfill that order? You see, your factories are all running full because the average demand is 1 million packs. So you you grow your factories to have a capacity of maybe 1.1 million, something like that. But to suddenly produce 2 million packs in a month means you have to suddenly double your number of factories, double your number of workers, double your number of shifts, and so on, right? How would that be possible? Tough, very, very tough, and super costly. Only and let's say you manage to do that, only to have to uh, dismantle the factories, fire the workers, the extra workers, sell off or stop renting the extra machines and all that stuff, then the following month or following months, very, very costly, right? So hiring costs money, firing also costs money, terminating also costs money, right? If not, let's say we don't talk about buying another factory, but just renting the factory. You have to put down deposit, prepare, yeah, align the factory, set in the machines and everything, and that costs money. And of course, after you stop renting, you got to restore it to its original condition. That costs money, and so it is super expensive. Yeah. So when you get whipped, you you feel the pain and you will yell out, right? Wow, right? That's the ouch that companies are feeling. The ouch in the P&L, the profit and loss, right? Okay, so that's why being whipped is a bad thing for the company, and it happens mostly to the FMCG companies. Okay, what about luxury goods? How about Rolex? Will Rolex experience bullwhip effect? Well, very unlikely. Very unlikely. Because when the item is very expensive, high in price, we're talking about, first of all, fewer people can afford it. Just affording it. Maybe even if you're very rich, you don't like Rolex. That's fine, right? You like Patek Philippe. You like Breitling, right? Something else. You don't like Rolex. That's fine, right? So let's just narrow down to people who are rich or who can afford it, right? So let's just say that's the top 20% or top 10% of the population. Out of that, you want to talk about uh, uh, those who can afford also likes the brand, likes the model, likes the watch. Then maybe let's say we take 20% out of that. Okay, so that's top 2%. And after that, so you know that it's very, very few in numbers, right? And so when it's so few in numbers, can they, create a wave? Can they cause a wave? Uh, Unlikely, I won't say impossible, right? Unlikely. Why is it possible? Well, a few things would have to happen. For example, during COVID-19, I did observe that the supply of Rolex got hit. So because COVID-19, yeah, so workers cannot go to work. So the supply of Rolex watches uh, almost went down to zero for a while, right? So the demand was still there. In fact, maybe the demand was even higher. People had more time because they can't work, they can't move around, so they had more time to compare, contrast, examine, and develop the liking for Rolex watches. And so the demand even inched up or edged up. So there's a huge demand and then no supply. So you end up having a wave there. But then it cannot be due to hoarding of watches because the watches themselves will take a lot of cash, right? So it will suck up a lot of opportunity. So that goes with most luxury goods. Okay, the likes of Lamborghini, Ferrari, will they be whipped? Unlikely again, right? For similar reasons. Yeah. So those lower priced, mass usage that just simply translates to fast moving consumer goods. That kind of goods tend to attract bullwhip phenomena. Okay, next, let's look at what caused bullwhip effect. Large discounts. Okay, These are by no means exhaustive list, but the primary, notable causes, right? So large discounts. When there's discounts, what happen? That's like supermarkets saying buy, like signaling for mass reaction. Let's run towards the potato chips counter and buy. Let's buy, like 80% discount. Yeah? So when you have huge discounts, of course, yeah, you attract a lot of people who are not also interested in potato chips, will think, hey, it's very low risk, right? Even if I don't like the taste, let's just buy first and then talk about it later, right? So when you have large discounts, you attract even potential buyers or not interested buyers to become buyers, and therefore magnifying the demand. And those who bought, will they actually consume it, like it, and repeatedly buy it when the discount is gone? I don't think so. You don't think so, would you? I mean, they won't. They won't come back and buy again, right? So there'll be those edge buyers who buy because there's discount. Otherwise, I don't buy. And if you're that kind of buyers, then it won't repeat. So then we have a wave, right? Because there's a rise and then you have a fall. So all these points are talking about causing a short-term or a reactionary sudden rise that cannot be sustained. A rise in demand, a rush in purchase, only for it to die off when the causing factor is gone, like the discount. Like fear of out of stock. If there's a rumor saying that there is no more mask, just like during or just before or on the onset of COVID-19, right? There's no more mask and everyone has to wear masks. Oh my gosh, right? So everybody rush out. And when you do see two masks, sorry, 10 sets of masks there, what would you do? You buy all, right? Because you figure, well, I can use it for myself. Remember the consolidation, right? Time consolidation and space consolidation. I can buy for myself. Who knows how long COVID-19 will last, right? So I can keep using it. Anyway, it's consumable. Or if I cannot consume, I can always share it with my family members or uh, pass it to my friends or sell it to my colleagues, right? And so you figure you will grab everything. Now, if you do think like that, and so will everyone else, then there's this wave of terror, right? So fear, and then there is this mad rush. Everybody will be rushing to buy, and so that is the signal. Again, that's the signal. So whenever there's rumor spreading around, and nowadays it spreads even faster and quicker and more accurately, more accurate rumor that via social media and everything else, then you get this synchronized generation of demand. Yeah, every time headache drug goes out of stock, so what should I do? The next time I see it on the shelf, I buy everything, right? So there's a fear of out of stock. If there is no fear of out of stock, there can be other reasons to cause a fear, cause a panic. That's the whole point. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be the manufacturer saying out of stock. Just a rumor, just the message, the signal that this could happen, and if that is truly absorbed, everyone believes it, then we have a problem. So fear of long lead time. So again, every time I have to wait for a long time to get my headache drug, and headache is killing me, right? So what should I do? I know that the shelf is going to be empty for a long time. I know it because I've been suffering under this headache for a long time, and I just visit the drugstore every day, and it's always empty. So what would I do? Of course, this signal, right? This learned experience that there's a long lead time before it's being replenished will teach me a lesson. The next time I see the replenishment, oh, it's a lot of stock, right? I will I will empty my bank account and buy the whole lot because because I need that. And once I clear it, the next person who has headache, right, will learn a lesson and then will continue this so that when I finish my inventory and I go back again, it was actually replenished yesterday. But then the next few guys whom I've taught a lesson right? That they couldn't buy the headache drug that they needed, and that's why they emptied out the shelf. Now comes back to teach me a lesson, isn't it? So this will just keep cycling around until uh, it's kind of spiraling downwards and just a problem in the whole supply chain. Imminent end of stock. Hey, you know what? This headache drug that we have been selling is going to stop production very soon. We are developing a new drug, right? But as you know, new drug, you may not like it. It may have other side effects that the manufacturer thinks is better, but not for you, not for your body, right? So if you have been using that kind of drug and you hear end of stock news, then it's a problem, right? Maybe you are accustomed to certain skin lotion that feels very good on your skin. Maybe you are used to certain UV block, right? Sunblock. Maybe you're used to certain face mask, and now it's going to go end of stock. What would you do? You grab the whole thing, right? So what I'm saying here is phenomenons, right? So there's going to be hurricane, not so much in Singapore, but in US, if there is weather forecast that because of satellites you can see literally the hurricane approaching your house, so you know it's coming, even though last second it may still swing away, but you don't want to risk, you know, uh, that what if not, right? What if not? So earthquake announcement by manufacturer that there is no more mask, then you better grab all the masks and so on and so forth. Speculative wait and pent up demand. Okay, so pent up demand, definitely, we hear about the revenge travel after COVID-19, right? Pent up demand. The moment you can start traveling again, right? Government, uh, uh, control and limitation of movement has been lifted, and people will just want to splash the money and fly around and go out just to compensate for the lost traveling. So pent up demand um, will lead to a sudden surge, right, in the demand quantity. For example, air tickets. So there was a sudden surge in air tickets being sold, and this sudden surge, while it's good, is non-repeatable. That's why it's bullwhip, or it's non-repeatable, and we don't expect the pent-up demand to repeat. It's a pent-up demand for that reason. Okay, so Christmas season, if you wait to buy, let's say, chocolate, because you are trying to buy some chocolates in November, but that is not an immediate need, right? You can delay your your taste buds consumption of chocolate. So you tell yourself, hey, you know what? Christmas is coming. I just have to wait for 2-3 more weeks. Definitely, the supermarket will give heavy discounts, right? Or maybe I just wait till 26. The day after Christmas, everything drops in price. So why don't I just wait till then? Then I buy, right? So I better not buy a lot. Even if I have to buy, I buy one, or I don't buy. I just wait. When you wait, you are generating your own pent up demand. But if everyone thinks like that, right? Because it's Christmas and everyone knows after Christmas, supermarkets have discounts. If that is the learned signal for everybody, then there is this synchronization, yeah, of generating the demand right after Christmas. There is also a synchronization of demand suppression the days before Christmas. And then you are creating a potential wave to be sweeping up the supply chain towards the chocolate manufacturer, right? Yeah. So speculative wait, pent up demand. Uh, many of these, right? So basically they can be classified into structural means the way the supply chain is being run or being organically evolved, right? So for example, certain industries, um, maybe the discount between, not industry but certain supply chain, right? Maybe the discount between this supplier and that buyer or that group of buyers is very standard. So if you agree on the price, $100 per pack, fine, okay, fine. And there is always the expectation, and it's always being fulfilled, of a 5% discount, or the waiving of the GST, 9%, right? That the supplier will absorb the GST, for example, and all these things. So if there is this structural thing, it's a common behavior, it's an expected thing, it's somehow negotiated already, and it's ongoing practice, structural. Order batching, if batching is the norm. Promotions that, for example, end of year discount, right? So if you buy, I don't know, chocolates, right? So after Christmas, if you buy from supplier, you expect a 15% discount at least, right? So if that is standard every year, then it is structural, right? It's kind of built into the system, not contractually, not legally. You can sue the supplier for discount, but then it's the way business is being done, right? So why aren't you giving me discount? So when there is such a thing, then you are generating the expectation, right, and the demand shifting, right? And that would be basically structural. Long lead times, uh, because of the delivery, right? Because of the lethargy and maybe the disorganized state of affairs or whatever it is, the lead time is long. Sometimes the lead time just has to be long. Maybe you're talking about fruits, fresh fruits, that has to go through refrigeration and constant temperature kind of cargo and transportation and routes, maybe, right? You don't want to go through hot uh, areas. So because of various physical or goods products related reasons, end up the lead time is long, necessarily long. Then no choice, right? So when the lead time is long, then that is part of the system and that is structural. When you have lack of visibility, because, for example, the fresh fruits, they come from villages, right? And those areas typically don't have computer systems. They go by manual counting. And after that, write down on a piece of paper, tagged it there. And then the rest of the people, right, don't know. The rest of the people in the supply chain don't know how many apples, how many oranges is being loaded up. This particular truck is being sent out today. Yeah, so there's no visibility. We can only roughly estimate, maybe from past data or from the activity of the people, just estimate. And that makes um, that creates expectation and the mismatch of expectation. I thought you were selling a lot of apples, that's why I gave lower price tags. How come you say there's no more apples, right? So end up there will be a lot of problems. Multiple stages in the supply chain. So just now I drew 3 time series to say there are 3 stages in the supply chains before you reach the manufacturer. But typically it may be 10 or more, right? Because especially as you have to talk about international businesses and import exports, then easily 8 or more, right? So 10 or more is not uncommon. And when you have more stages, it just means everyone has its own lead time. So typically, having more stages also implies having more having longer lead time because you add up all the lead times, right? Having further delays because any one delays will lead to the final delay, right? The delay in the final delivery. So all these things will be problematic. And then you have behavioral. So it's structural, leading to sometimes leading to behavioral. Sometimes it's just human being. Like being greedy, uh, being competitive. I want to short out the market so that my competitors cannot get any apples. I will buy up all of P&G's Pampers for June, July, and August because distributors, they are typically financially strong. And I know my next 2, 3 competitors, they are not financially as strong as me, the leading distributor. So I will use my financial might. I negotiate with P&G, give me good discount. I buy up 3 months of your Pampers. Okay, don't worry about everything. I put my it just give me the discounts. I'll give you the money, right? So of course, as manufacturer who is not aware about Bullwhip and who just wants to sell the goods out, and I say that with a bit of emphasis, right? So if you are a manufacturer, you just sell the goods and get the money, right? If you are that kind of manufacturer, then of course you love this kind of distributor who says, I buy up 3 months of your production in advance. How about that? Just give me 50% discount. And after you do your calculations, you the manufacturer will still have a good profit. So you will say yes, right? I'm saying if you only sell. Now then you might be asking, why aren't you thinking like that? That's the whole point of manufacturer, right? You make the goods, you sell, and then you take the money. But modern manufacturers, especially the big ones, right, MNCs, who are who who have experience in all these bad issues, poor supply chains, and long-term wise bad for everyone kind of uh, behavior of the supplier. And if you go for short-term profitability, then it is not necessarily a good thing. So big MNCs, they tend to know this, and they will not be, while making money and having profitable business is very important to them because they also have their shareholders to report to. However, they also recognize that short-term uh, gains for this month so that I can meet the quota, for this year so that my P&L for this year looks good, is not going to be a very good long-term supply chain uh, gain, action or decision. So shortage gaming, if there's such a distributor coming in to want to buy from P&G, likely P&G will not agree to that because P&G, of course, is wise enough to say, okay, you're trying to do some shortage gaming. I am not really in favor of that. So why don't you just, use your money wisely, right? I will just sell you your lot, right? I'm very happy to do business with you. I'll sell you your lot, but keep the shortage gaming to some other things, right? Maybe not for my products. Okay, so shortage gaming is not going to be a good thing, right? What happens when this distributor manages to buy up all the goods for 3 months? What happens? Well, now this distributor can, because of the good discount and the monopoly for the next 3 months, right? This distributor can do many, many things, right? It can encourage sales for at discounted prices for the next 3 months to the retailer, to the customer. So this distributor can pass out some of these discounts to encourage more sales. So the distributor will not be stuck with the Pampers, so much Pampers, right? The distributor will not. It will also pass on the discount so as to encourage people to hoard up at their home. So people will buy, instead of 1 pack, they buy 4 packs, right? And Pampers is um, low price. I'm not saying it's cheap because when you compare P&G's Pampers with other brands, it's also premium, right? Premium price. Other brands selling at $10, Pampers might be selling at $18, right? That kind of thing, difference. But $18 is not $1,800. It's not $18,000. So for typical households, if you see that normally it is selling at $18 per pack, now if you buy 4 packs, it's $12 per pack. You'll be itching very much to just dig out from your piggy bank and buy, right? Because you think that my kid will still need it for the next 3-4 months. Don't you think so? It's very logical and reasonable because the end consumer is really also benefiting from the discount. So it's not a scam or whatnot. So people will be encouraged to hoard. And so this monopoly distributor can do many of these things. And what happens to the next 3 months? There'll be no one buying from P&G. Correct or not? Because everyone has a lot of Pampers at home and they don't need to buy, right? Not that they are abandoning the product, but they don't need to buy. So what happens to P&G's production line? They will have to stop work for 2-3 months. And that's when P&G gets really whipped, right now. Yeah. So this shortage gaming, a kind of strategy or cunning nonsense, right? Thought of, originated from the distributor, will come back and haunt the manufacturer. Demand forecast, right? So if the demand, the keyword here is forecast. Forecast is always wrong because it's always thinking ahead and it's trying to estimate. So there's a bit of a problem with that, right? So if the forecast is very badly done, then you tend to overestimate or underestimate. When you overestimate and you correct it, then you basically create a wave, right? You create a wave now, then you have it. You have the correction. You order less, then there is a unsustainable spike. You order less now, and then you will have to make up for the loss, so to speak, because of pent up demand. And so the next month there will be a surge, and then only to drop back again. Overreaction to backlogs, right? So there is lack of supply for a while, so now there's a overreaction. Oh, you are always unable to supply on time to meet the demand, right? So what will customer do? I overreact, right? So I think of the worst and I double my demand quantity so that I will uh, have some inventory to cover this period of lack of supply. I think, when actually it's a one-off phenomenon, but I over-exaggerated it. I overreacted it. So that can happen. End of period behaviors. So it's like end of year, there's supposed to be discount. So retailers might want to buy a lot, right, to get ready for uh, the New Year celebration. There will be demand for chocolate. And if, for example, Chinese New Year happens earlier in January, sometimes mid-January, then the demand for chocolate and maybe others festive snacks and eateries might be very high, right? So they will take advantage of the end of season, end of year discount period to do something, hoarding, buying, right? Doubling in demand. So all this you can see has got to do with human greed and fear and whatever it is, right? And competitiveness, wanting to win, and all that stuff, right? So behavioral. And finally, we want to look at how to reduce bullwhip effect. And of course, when we talk about that, we are standing at the manufacturer's position to look at things, and thinking that we, the manufacturer, have the ability to not to coerce, but to teach, right? To guide, to educate the downstream um, supply chain players who are actually our customer, right? But then we want them to work with us. That's usually how they phrase it. Right? Actually, it is a bit stronger. That is, if you are not going to play ball with me, you're out of my supply my buyers list. I don't sell you. I don't want to sell to you. These are basically words coming from manufacturers who care about the health of their supply chain. Yeah, because in order not for the manufacturer to get whipped, the downstream players, remember, they are also manufacturers' customer, correct or not? Yeah. So the downstream suppliers must look at me, the manufacturer, as their partner. Okay, don't look at me, the manufacturer, as their supplier to squeeze discount from, to squeeze lead time from, all that, right? And so the manufacturer will educate, train, discipline, yeah, the downstream suppliers to look at everyone as partners and only the end consumer, because remember it's FMCG, huh? So the product will eventually be consumed by humans like you and me, families, households, individuals like you and me, and that will be the actual customer. That will be how manufacturer looks at as the actual customer, and all the other intermediaries, right? The distributors, the wholesalers, the supermarkets, right? The likes of Cold Storage, NTUC, the likes of Harvey Norman, what's that? Uh, Courts, right? So these are the home appliances outlets for the retail shoppers to buy things from, and these all have to play ball with the manufacturer. Then there was one experience. I was talking to a manager from local Singapore Sony uh, office, And I learned that Sony, as everyone knows, right, is a very premium brand. They have long history of manufacturing high quality goods, and definitely a brand name in the years of many households. But they also face a lot of competitors, right? So for Sony, I think you might have heard of the Bravia brand, their model name, their overall model name for the TVs, right? So for Sony TVs, they are keen on selling, of course. They are keen on having market share, of course. But they are not just keen on selling a lot of them to the distributor. So the thinking is that the TVs get sold to distributor, but they are not finally sold to the households, right? Or they are not finally consumed by the individuals, by humans, by or business users in the office. That is, then it doesn't make sense to them. That is no good. That is not considered success for their brand. So that's a very interesting and radically different kind of mindset, isn't it? Than just trying to sell because it's a IT, right? It's electronics, right? So you just want to quickly move the products out of your door and then that's it. And that's one kind of thinking, but then that's really not very healthy in the long term. So the Sony Bravia way is to make sure that their products propagate down the supply chain all the way to the end user. Then that is considered successful. So you see, that's the difference in thoughts, right? Yeah, that's really happening in real life. Okay, so how do we reduce the effects? We have talked about the reasons, right, that cause it, and the reasons can give rise to the effects, right? And as you can expect, there'll be excessive inventory, there'll be long lead times, right? All these are bad for supply chain. Bad for supply chain means that it is bad for not just for manufacturer, but also bad for distributor, or also bad or also bad for retailer. So it could be a zero-sum game, right? Like that distributor wins because he's able to crush the other competitors, but then at the expense of bullwhipping the manufacturer. Or distributor wins, becoming a monopoly for the 3 months, but then the distributor raises the price, and because it's an FMCG, it's a necessity, right? It's consuming goods, right? So people will have to buy, not doubling the price, of course. That will be too much. But if the monopolizing distributor can increase the price by 5%, 10%, kind of like small, but then that's going to make a lot of money for the distributor, right? But no choice, right? The consumers, the end consumers like you and me, will just have to pay the price. So it'll be bad for maybe a few parties, a few stakeholders in the supply chain, or it may be just bad for all when we have poor performance in the supply chain. Yeah. So what can that exhibit as? It can show up as excess inventory, leading to high storage costs, high holding costs for the distributors, and they will not absorb the cost. They will pass it down. Long lead times, right? So long lead times lead to many problems. Long lead times tends to lead to larger fluctuations. Have you thought about that? Okay, like it's like those people who stay further away from university campus and who have to travel back and forth, right? They tend to have higher variance in their arrival time. Let's say they have to come to school by 9 o'clock in the morning, they will tend to reach sometimes 8:15, sometimes very late, like 9:30 for their 9 o'clock class. That kind of meaning. Whereas if you stay very close, then the traveling time is shorter. Then you also tend to be more punctual. Like if you're late for 5 minutes. Then if you're early because you're staying so close, you can tend to plan your timings very well. You're walking to campus, so you're less affected by buses, right? Traffic jams, accidents on the roads, sleepy roads, and whatever it is. Yeah, so you have less factors affecting creating fluctuations in your arrival time, and that is very much the case for long lead times, leading to higher fluctuations in the lead time. And remember, fluctuations, that's variations, that's waste, that's bad thing, right? So long is bad already. Long that also accompanies with larger variations in lead times will have a lot more problems, right? So encouraging bullwhip, encouraging generation of waste, time waste. Out of stock. Out of stock means customer has the money, has the desire to buy from you, you say sorry. Right now. Yeah, so that's bad because number one, you don't earn from this customer right now for this transaction. Number two, you're going to drive me away, right? I can't buy from you and it's FMCG. I need it now. I need it to wash my hair now. Who do I buy from? Competitors. I've never tried this brand, but since my favorite XYZ shampoo is not around, okay, let me try this ABC shampoo. It's 20% cheaper. Hey, it smells nicer, right? It's got additional 10% in volume of the shampoo. Seems like a very good deal. And then from there on, I won't come back. I will migrate to the new brand. So this is a terrible thing to go out of stock, right? So in supply chain, you don't want to go out of stock because of this double whammy reason. High costs. If it is high costs, then everyone loses. Because it could have been profit for the manufacturer, for the distributor, or for everyone. Everyone gains something, but no. Right now, everyone loses because everyone needs more uh, holding costs, right? Renting of space, borrowing of warehouse, and at the last minute, meaning the price will be higher, right? So everything is higher, and the risk is higher. It could be that after holding it for 1 month, the demand dropped, disappeared. Then what happens to your goods? Nobody is going to want that. It's a bit like the tariff, right? So when the US started the tariff on China, for example, right? So 100%, 145%. So all of a sudden, the demand that was created the month before, the ship was on its way across the ocean. Halfway through, there was an announcement of 145% tariff. Because the tariff will need to turn into cash payment to the US government when the ship arrives at the port. But then the ship is halfway in the ocean. So now what happens? There's no liability yet. You don't need to pay yet. Because you are liable to pay the 145% when the importer in US signs and says, I import this, right? So, but then the ship is halfway in the ocean. So what happens? Well, there's a risk, right? There's a risk. Will this be counted by the US custom as, exempted from the tariff or not? And there wasn't any much clarification because nobody knows. It was just announced. So high risk right now. So there are those importers who says, okay, I don't want anymore because there's a chance that I might have to pay, and that amount is like if I buy $100,000 goods, I'm gonna pay $145,000 as tax, right? So I don't think I want to take this risk. So bye bye. Right? So if they don't, then basically you have to ship back, you have to U-turn and go back, right? So that's the risk that we are talking about in supply chain. Adversarial relationships, no trust between the supplier and the buyer. No trust as not in terms of fighting a war, but no trust as in I don't know you, you don't know me, you don't know whether I'm coming back to buy as a repeat customer, right? I, as the customer, don't know if your goods are reliable, branded, or whatnot. So, not much of a give and take willingness, let's put it that way. Yeah. So that's the adversarial situation. In that case, then what happens? Well, there may be a bit of distrust that you will sell me again, so I buy more. Or there may be a distrust that you are not so important a customer. So as a manufacturer, I put you at the last for delivery, thus generating a longer lead time for you. That would be the effect. Right? Inefficient scheduling. Yeah, so using manual routing, manual instructions to the van drivers, go here, go there, right? I mean, that was very true in the earlier days, in the 80s, 90s. And even now, if you use just computer, manually typing into Excel and then do some basic formula, that's still very much manual, right? In the AI world, that's very inefficient, right? And if it comes up with um, non-optimized or suboptimal routing or delivery quantities or whatever it is, then basically you are leaving money on the table. You're not optimizing the profit. Yeah. Okay, so those are the signs that we will see and some of the impacts that we will experience if we have a poorly performing supply chain. How do we overcome that? Overcome bullwhip effect. Very easy, right? So do all the right things. Reduce lead time across everyone. Don't just focus on one. Everyone's lead time need to be reduced. So just remember, the longer the lead time, the larger the fluctuation in the lead time. Okay, let me say again. The shorter the lead time, the lesser the potential for the fluctuation. Yeah, so therefore, the longer the lead time, the higher potential. I mean, it doesn't always happen, but almost like Murphy's Law, inevitably, the fluctuation will be larger. The risk, right? The sometimes very, very short time, sometimes very, very long time. If on average, your lead time is very long. Reduce the uncertainty. Try to be transparent in the supply quantity, in the timing, in the count and the time. Try to be transparent. Try to share notes between between strangers. Remember, the manufacturer is a separate company from the buyer, the distributor, the retailer, the NTUC, the supermarket. Yeah, so all these are different companies. So here you're trying to say, please try to share the notes. So if if you don't want to share your profitability, share the purchase quantity, your planned purchase quantity. That means your future purchase quantity, um, your delivery times, your lead times if you are the manufacturer. Reduce replenishment lead times, like I said, right? Reduce lead time, reduce lot sizes to be more agile. Don't ship in one big container truck. Ship in smaller size vans so that if you make a mistake, it's a small size van. That kind of thing. Collaborative activities. So encourage more mutual understanding between supplier and manufacturer, between the buyer and the seller. Share information, share understanding. And when you do that, you build trust, right? And you build goodwill so that if there's a mistake, what mistake? This particular transaction, right? That I said I'm the buyer. And I noticed that in this particular transaction, I've told the seller, this is a very important delivery. Don't be late. End up, it was late. Now, what am I going to interpret about this incident? If we are strangers, right? We're doing business first time. I would say you are trying to be playing punk on me, right? I told you it's very important. Please don't be late, and you just purposely, I inserted the word purposely trying to be late, when actually maybe it was rainy season and the delivery truck encountered some accidents, right? The delivery truck was veered off course, swept away by the flood or whatnot, right? Something like that. So if there is trust, then of course the first reaction might be, what happened, right? Let me call the manager. Oh, your driver, is he okay? So there is goodwill, there is attempt to solve problem rather than blaming, right? So all these are to encourage the building up of trust and good relationship. Ration short supplies. So don't starve everybody just to feed 100% on one customer. Try to give little bit to everybody. So that is true. So as not to generate a signal that Because if 99 customers couldn't get stock, right? Only one says, yeah, I managed to buy. Then what is the rumor? Hey, it's going out of stock, right? Yeah. But if 99, 99 customers say, hey, I cannot get enough, but do you have the pills? Do you have the Panadol? Do you have the mask? Yeah, I have some. I can use them sparingly. Sure, why not? Right. And then one customer didn't get any. Now, what is the rumor? No, 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 it cannot be out of stock. 99 people will say, right? 99 people will say, no, 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 it cannot be. We managed to buy. Did you buy? Yeah, yeah, I managed to get some, right? So that's why rationing is better than to fulfill one big demand and then starve out all others, right? Now, use everyday low pricing. I don't know if you have seen that, but go to your local supermarket, NTUC, for example. You look around the shelves. Ever so often, you will see this little tag that says everyday low price. What's this trying to say? It's trying to say we are selling at everyday high price. Okay, right? It's printing as everyday low pricing. Actually, every day is the same price, same high price. The high part I'm just adding in, right? Every day is selling at the same price. Please don't wait. If you need to buy the can of sardines now, buy them now, right? We're not going to give you special discount after Christmas. That's the message they're saying, right? In a very, marketing wise, very user friendly way, right? Not so threatening, but they're trying to say every day we're ripping you off, right? So don't wait. We're not going to give you discount, so that there will not be a surge in demand. There will not be an artificial suppression in demand, only to be released as a pent up demand after that. Single demand forecasting. That means please work together, upstream, downstream, everybody work together. Show your books. All right, be transparent about your demands, your estimates, your buffers, your safety stock. When you show your books to everyone, and we are all knowing each other's plans, right? Then there is no gaming, right? There's no gaming. There is no secret stocking up so that I can give a super massive discount in end of year clearance sale. Pretend to clear, but actually it's just gaming, right? So when you share demand forecast, it tends to be able to level out, yeah, the whipping effect. But hey, difficult. So I put this uh, 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 helpless kind of face because very difficult. Very, very. Okay, so already it's difficult maybe to get two departments in the same company to work together. You're talking about two different companies to share, to open the books, right? And through the books, because remember it's FMCG. Example, one person buys uh one shampoo every week or every month. Okay, whatever it is. So based on the quantity of sale of the shampoo, you can reverse work out how many customers this retail store has, right? Approximately. Isn't it? Yeah. So that's why it's a bit overexposing your business, and you're wondering, will this upstream distributor go and open up a downstream retail store themselves? You always have this fear, isn't it? Yeah. So NTUC is a supermarket. Do they also have a 7-Eleven equivalent? Yes, it's called Cheers. Right? So they start to go into this convenience grocery store concept as well. And it's not a natural extension of supermarkets because the the way the items are being put on the shelf, they're attracting different customers. So yeah, so single demand forecasting, good idea, right? It theoretically might work, but difficult. Share data, right? So share more than just demand and forecast, but share your actual data, your past data, your timings, your lead times, your setup times, your transportation times. Yeah, very, very difficult. Okay, so maybe in dreamland, huh? Be cooperative and trustworthy. Yes, very good, right? Let's trust each other, right? What happens in actual fact? Uh, yeah, that can be done in dreamland. Rather tough, as you can imagine. It's not impossible. It's not impossible, uh, but it takes the will of the manufacturer. Or the manufacturer has to really believe in the health of the whole supply chain, because it's also going to need to consider, yeah, the profitability of its downstream distributors and wholesalers and retailers. And why should it bother itself with their health right now? Yeah, but then you need to commit yourself. The manufacturer needs to commit itself to the healthiness of its product flowing through these people. So if you commit to that, then you need to begin, right, sharing data. You manufacturer got to take the lead by example and say, look, I'm going to share with you, all of you, our forecast, our demand forecast. Our lead time will be like this. Okay, would you be willing to show me yours? Okay, asking, but then of course, you have to try to be reciprocating, right? So uh, it's not impossible. Manufacturer has to take the lead, has to be very open, and maybe be disappointed by one or more of these suppliers. Maybe they say, huh? Oh, in that case, I don't work with you. I work with your competitor, right? I go to another brand. Yeah, so you might feel disappointed, and you might be overexposing yourself, because this distributor or wholesaler that goes to another brand might then take your shared information to another brand. So yeah, so overall there's a challenge there, but these are theoretically at least some ways to think about. Now on the right side are some, what we say, innovative, right? Innovative because they are a creative, and they work on the basis that there is actually some trusts being developed between the supplier and the manufacturer in particular. So let's take a look. The what you need to kind of pay attention to the most is the first one, the VMI, the vendor managed inventory. So this says the seller, in this case, imagine the manufacturer like P&G, Procter and Gamble, selling their Pampers, their diapers at NTUC retail store. Okay, so NTUC supermarket. Now, normally NTUC, the retailer, will buy from, let's say there's no middleman, so NTUC will buy from P&G, right? And P&G will just sell the goods to NTUC. When the goods arrive at NTUC supermarket, what happens? Well, NTUC people, personnel, wearing NTUC tag, the staff of NTUC will receive the goods, count, maybe random sampling certain packs and inspect the quality, and then sign off, right? And then maybe a few days later, the accounts department from NTUC will pay the money. That usually is the way. In VMI, it is the P&G folks who will routinely go down to NTUC store, all the stores, all the supermarket stores, right? And count the number of packs on the shelf. They also have permission to go inside NTUC's inventory in each supermarket to count, to tally the inventory level. And furthermore, counting is just a small activity, but after counting, if that P&G personnel should detect that the level is, below certain reordering level, reorder point or trigger point, then the P&G person, will have the authority to initiate shipment from P&G to refill the shelves for NTUC. Can you imagine that? Yeah. So now all the jobs that are traditionally, in the classical sense, done by NTUC staff is actually now done by P&G. Can you imagine that? And furthermore, of course, with valid contracts being signed between P&G and NTUC, okay, so that all the relevant authorities are given. And furthermore, when P&G personnel reorders for NTUC, the stocks will be sent in. P&G personnel will ensure that the stocks are placed properly, so that, for example, you and I, the customers of NTUC who walk past the shelves, will then always see that P&G products are there, being properly refilled, being properly laid out. Right, it's very presentable, and so on and so forth. And then NTUC will also pay the reordered goods. Yeah, so this is like NTUC totally just opens up the wallet and says take whatever money you need to make sure that your goods are properly laid out on the shelves, on my shelves, and my customers just walk past, take from the shelves, and then give me the money. So will NTUC do it? Of course, right? Yeah, because if everything is done nicely as per what I've just described, it's like I save the inventory personnel. I save the potential risk that there is on the shelf, the goods have stock out, nobody knows, and a few customers pass by, they want to buy P&G products and they are not there, right? So disappointed, they went back or buy other brands. So I save a lot of costs, and I save hiring one person. I reduce a lot of costs, right? And the the product is still well managed, right? It's still well stocked, and I just collect the money. So why wouldn't I do that? And I'm working with P&G, a reputable brand, a reliable manufacturer. So now the big question is, why would P&G do that, right? Yeah. So what do you think? Yes, because we are talking about how to reduce the potential of being whipped. Who is going to be whipped? P&G. So how can P&G help itself to be not whipped? Because when it is whipped, the doubling or tripling of the waves will incur millions and millions of dollars for P&G. So for P&G, it will start thinking, why don't I just hire a few more people, right? And these can be full-time persons running around, serving not just NTUC, but also Cold Storage and Prime Supermarket and multiple other supermarket chains. So there's a lot of work to be done. And I offer this free service. So I'm going to pay for that person. So that person will represent P&G, right? So the person will go there and ensure that the P&G goods, my goods, will be fully shelved there, and not to just help NTUC. Of course, as a result, it will help the supermarket. But the main thing is this person has a secret mission. Not so secret, but it's secret mission because it's irrelevant to NTUC. But it is going to write down the demand on a daily basis or whenever whatever timing it makes sense. Right. So on a daily basis, it will tally the count, how many packs of what model have been bought by actual customer. So the main point being P&G knows the actual ground demand. And secretly, NTUC cannot claim that for that month we sold 5 times as much P&G. Correct? Yeah, you cannot do that anymore because it's very transparent now. Yeah. So because my person actually counted each and every pack, right now, yeah. So P&G knows the actual real demand, and it can then plan and forecast in a very reliable manner. There will not be air, there will not be hollow, there will not be feared buffer added in by NTUC or any other middleman in between. Right now, yeah. So that's the best part. That's the best benefit that P&G wants to get out of a BMI arrangement. So it doesn't mind paying for these costs because it's like insurance, right? So instead of a accident, the bullwhip hitting itself, causing it to lose $10 million, yeah, but why don't I pay a monthly premium of $10,000, Fair enough. Yeah. So if I pay a monthly premium of $10,000, that will ensure that throughout the year I will not be whipped. So throughout the year I pay $100,000, and I ensure that my $10 million bullwhip will not happen. But of course, as in most of insurance buyers, you might, or non-insurance buyers, I would say, you might say, what if you that year you don't have a bullwhip? Then wouldn't you have wasted this money? Well, the idea is this amount is not much to P&G. Number two is, sure, even if it's not much, you don't want to squander, right? But it's never squander, because can you guarantee it won't happen, right? When we had discussed so many potential sources, structural, behavioral reasons for bullwhip to occur, can you ensure it won't happen to P&G? So that's why nobody can. So by paying an insurance premium, by having a BMI offered to the customer, the end customer, the retailer, right, then the manufacturer can be protected. So this is the gist, and it's being actually practiced by P&G and Walmart. And locally in Singapore, sometimes you might go to the hawker center, and when you are queuing up to buy, the favorite char kway teow, or I don't know, wonton noodles or something. Occasionally, I don't know if you've been paying attention. Occasionally, you might see this guy, middle-aged guy or young man, um, wheeling a trolley of packs of noodles, right? And they would kind of do some sort of eyeballing, probably counting, and then they say, uh, sometimes they don't say, they would just like, put 2 packs or put 3 packs, so that it will fill to a certain level that is invisible to me. I don't know where they are looking at, but there's some sort of a level, some sort of a reorder point level. They will just keep filling in, and to top it up, right? After that, they will just write down some numbers and says, okay, you're going to pay me this amount for my topping up of those noodles. It could be noodles, it could be, cooking ingredients, it could be soy sauce, it could be, various stuff. And the busy hawkers, they have no time, right, to count themselves, to make the order, find the telephone number of the right person, call, not available, call again. They have to deal with so many orders and queue up impatient customers and cook themselves and pack, and then, you know, take the money, change, and all that. They are so busy that they don't have time to reorder. So these manufacturers of, for example, fish balls, noodles, soy sauce, or whatever it is, they perform some sort of a miniature vendor managed inventory. That would be an illustration as well, right? So of course, this kind of cases won't be studied at the MBA level, but it is a good application of VMI, because the guy is actually from the manufacturer, from the fishball manufacturer, from the noodle manufacturer. This guy delivers, counts, refills, and then charges accordingly to the hawker. Whereas the hawker will trust, will have to trust, because they have no choice. They don't have time to recount or validate. So they have to have a bit of a trust that this guy and the manufacturer will do their honest counting and will not overcharge them and will not undercount, will not overcount, and all that, right? So because they rely on this cooperation, manufacturer relies on this, on their trust, so that they can do a quick sale, right? And they do it honestly. The hawker relies on the integrity of the manufacturer, so that he can save a lot of time to worry more about delivering the cooked meals so as to earn more revenue, rather than spending his time, his precious time, to count and order the materials. So it's a very successful arrangement. Now, for the rest of the points, they are basically variations, because this is working so well that you see it everywhere in one form or another. And other textbook um, variations with brand names like continuous replenishment programs, if you read through everything, the action is basically like BMI. The only thing is, owner sends consumption info, continuously. There can be some sort of a electronic networking connections, database connections, and supplier just performs fulfillment. So because supplier can see the consumption level sent by the owner can manually send, like every day, every hour email, or owner can have a website through an API and let the supplier connect or whatnot. It can always be done electronically, and the supplier in this continuous replenishment means refilling up, right? The action of refilling. Um, Supplier just does that, right? Because the level is already counted, right? So that's it. It's basically VMI. Or you have supplier owned inventory, right? In terms of action, exactly like BMI, right? So supplier will have his personnel go and count, decide how much to refill. The only difference is supplier didn't charge the owner until such time when it is being used or when it is being sold. So supplier will refill. Yes, supplier will put the packs there on the shelf, but supplier doesn't invoice or charge the owner right away. Okay, and the inventory belongs to supplier. It's like a kind of consignment. So the title, the ownership still belongs to seller. Until when? Until when the retailer actually sells it off, gets the money, then part of it will be paid to the supplier. So it's just payment differences. In terms of logistical supply chain actions, it's exactly like BMI. And finally, this collaborative planning, forecasting, replenishment, similar, right? Supplier does the replenishment, but you do some sort of collaborative activity, share information, share forecasting, basically saying what we have said before, be transparent in your information sharing. Little bit harder to achieve in short term. You need a strong leadership from manufacturer who should be reputable and reliable, and therefore has been in existence for a long time, branded, known to be reliable, known to care for its supplier. Very important, right? To build trust. Then gradually, through time, the trust has been built. Supplier will come together. Maybe supplier will be very happy and willingly share their information. Then you can have a very healthy supply chain. So, not easy, but that's the right direction. Okay, that's all I have to say about bullwhip effect. Thank you, and see you in the next video.